As cringe as it is, go back to that thought you always seem to have just when you're about to fall asleep.
Hey, are you awake?
You know exactly what I'm talking about, the one so stupid and embarrassing that it literally keeps you up at night if you're unlucky enough to have it actually cross your mind. We all have a few memories like this. Now imagine that exact moment was broadcast around the world and in front of a live audience. Well, that's exactly what today's video is about. Moments so unjustifiable, so bereft of thought that you have no choice but to call it, well, dumb.
Oh, that is, oh my God, this is so dumb. So dumb. Why?
Really, to see Yogi get knocked out like that, stupid job the second round and gets hit in the head.
This is tough enough physically, but you've got to have it between the ears.
I'm Jason from MMA On Point. A big shout out to our Hall of Famers for supporting this channel, and these are the 10 dumbest moments in MMA history. So, real quick, let me be clear in what I'm talking about. You'll see some showboating gone wrong in this video, but in general, most showboating is just a high-risk, high-reward game plan. Anderson Silva, for instance, was trying to bait a counter against Weidman. He'd successfully done that for 7 years as UFC champion, and it made him a superstar for pulling it off for so long. Is it all of a sudden dumb the one time it fails? If you ask me, it was just a backfired strategy with a bit of aging / slowed down reflexes sprinkled in there. And that's something I can't really say for the entries on this list. There was no strategy, or at least completely terrible ones. There's a really high bar here, or should I say a low one, for being dumb enough to make it into this video. So let's get started. Number 10, power slap defense. Here's exactly what I mean about showboating. Usually the goal is to bait a shot, like I said, right? Hopefully that means you'll be able to counter and catch somebody overcommitting big time. And I think that's why it's so satisfying when you do see a big showboater lose. They get a taste of their own medicine. But the taunting happening here is literally, well, this. There is no strategy here. This is just a guy who got rocked saying, I bet I can take your best shots now. This is effectively somebody forcing themselves to play one-sided rounds of power slap without taking their turn to even be able to slap back. And you can hit them with anything, not just slaps. Actually, you're rarely gonna even try a slap unless you're a Diaz brother. Shout out to this classic clip on Tough, even though it wasn't in an actual fight.
Just do it!
And then, of course, this is probably the one to go the most viral in recent years. I mean, come on, dude. If you tell somebody to hit you and you don't do anything to stop it, the odds of going unconscious or at least getting rocked is extraordinarily high. No countering, no slipping, no ducking, no dodging. It's just a free hit from a trained professional. Number 9. Intercepting Fists. Here's another one that's become legendary over time, and it's a very young Nick Diaz during his first stint in 2005. He was taking on Japanese pancrase star Koji Oishi, whose record was solid at the time at 11-3, beating guys like Chris Lytle, and he had some very real punching power. But the fact is, he was tremendously undersized against Nick Diaz. By today's standards, there's no way he'd be fighting at 170 pounds. He'd be lucky to get 145 at best. So he was already at a big disadvantage here, but he had this idea to fight Nick Diaz in an extremely unconventional way.
Interesting. He was practicing this in the octagon before, throwing punches and having his coach throw punches at him and blocking them with his hands.
Predictably, this went horrible. Only about a minute 15 into the fight, Nick pretty much laid waste to the poor guy. But here's the crazy thing. He fought Pancrase his very next fight, and guess who it was against? None other than Nate Diaz. That's right, little bro went over to fight Oishi, this time in Japan. And Oishi's strategy could not have been more different. Gone was this intercepting fist style of trying to stop Nate's punches with his own. No, he fought him pretty much normally. Showed great head movement and evasiveness with solid counters. Against Nick, he was basically just a stationary target trying to sort of parry with his own fist.
He's still doing this. Wow. He tries to block the left punch with his punch.
And in fact, he actually dropped Nate on a couple occasions here. How many times have you ever even seen that in Nate Diaz's career? Now, don't get me wrong, Diaz was really early in his career, and I'm not saying he would have beaten Nate in his prime or Nick with this strategy, but what it does show is that Uishi was much more capable of a striker against a very similar style in Nate than the insane way he attempted to fight his older brother Nick. Uishi cleanly beat Nate here, and this is the way he fought before Nick Diaz too. So it was a harebrained strategy in one fight against Nick that was based in anything but practical fighting techniques.
And I wasn't sure if he was really going to actually try that. That's very, very bad strategy.
Number 8. Basic equipment. This fight ended up being a rematch between two grizzled vets because, well, the first one ended like this.
Our main event turned out to be a no contest, accidental shot that Sergey Karatanov could not recover from.
Yeah, not great, but just 10 events later, Bellator made a solid move rebooking this one, and it was a decent draw for them at the time, so why not, I guess. This fight probably had the best start ever. Of course, they had to do a little cup check, and Dan Mergliotta forgot he had a hot mic on.
I want you to obey my commands at all times. I want you to protect yourselves at all times. You got yours on? You fucker, excuse me. That's what I was doing now.
First round started things off fine, fairly fun striking battle with two big heavyweights, but towards the end of the first, Mitrione started having trouble with his mouthpiece.
Use this fence right now in pushing Matt Mitrione back.
No big deal, he puts it back in, and 20 seconds later it's out again, prompting this exchange.
Keep it in, please keep it in, okay? Well, that doesn't help me. Keep it in your mouth.
Yeah, Dan was literally laughing already at this point. Then it happens a third time, to which Mergliotta warns him.
Keep losing it.
Time. If it falls out again, you lose a point. Don't let it come out of your mouth. Bite down on it. Bite down on it, Matt. Don't let it fall out again.
Was he trying to stall or something? What's going on here? You can't give timeouts in MMA, so he couldn't let that happen. It goes to round 2, albeit Matt now seems super frustrated, like he can't focus on anything else but that mouthpiece, and it goes flying again. And Karatanov goes straight for the kill. So what the hell happened? Chael Sonnen, who was working in the booth that night, caught up with Mitrione and tells the story.
He was having some kind of a mouthpiece problem. And so Mitrione did tell the story after the fight, though. He goes, yeah, I left my mouthpiece. Now, for some of you, you won't be able to relate to this. I literally have, in a safe at home, I have my passport, my wife's passport, and a mouthpiece. I am not kidding. And to get a fitted mouthpiece is very hard. You can't just go to any dentist or any orthodontist. It has to be a special place that does these fitted mouthpieces.
This was backed up by Mitrione on Twitter as well, which he blamed himself, and the commentary was not kind to him at all here.
You take a look at what happens there, and yes, that mouthpiece is a huge factor in this loss for Matt Mitrione because he allowed it to get to him mentally. His mouth is open, that mouthpiece is not fitted. Don't ask me why it's not fitted. You're a professional fighter.
Matt Mitrione, look, this is tough enough physically, but you've got to have it between the ears there where you cannot let things like that get to you, where your mouthpiece suddenly plays a part in this fight.
Number 7, prospects to Blunder. This fight is a bit more recent relative to the last few entries. It happened on an infamous card with UFC 278 in 2022. It took place between two prospects at featherweight, Sean Woodson and Luis Saldana. You'd be forgiven for not recognizing the names, but most of you will outright recognize what I'm about to show you. The fight was at first going pretty well for Luis Saldana. He was about midway through the rounds and cracked Woodson with a hook that had him in crazy trouble. But critically, he didn't go for the finish here, which pissed off his corner and notably the commentary as well.
The corner, Saldana's telling him stop playing, go get him.
I don't understand what Saldana was doing there.
Again, 30 seconds later, this time he showboats for a little bit and... oh shit. Yeah, that's a super illegal knee. Dude probably had this fight won twice in the same round and nearly lost the fight just as fast with his antics. Lucky for him, Woodson could continue and only a point was taken away rather than an outright disqualification, but Woodson recovered, battled back, and well, because the point was taken away in the first round, dude, this was a split draw.
So rare.
So this dude went from looking like the next big prospect to, well, the laughing stock of the entire night.
What an idiot.
And to make matters worse,
that was the last fight on my contract, so we're going to see about trying to get re-signed here soon.
You don't showboat, man. You finish the fight.
Yeah, that's how he ended his contract to the UFC. And guess what? They didn't renew it. And now this guy is 33 years old, well beyond the age the UFC prefers fighters to be because, of course, they want fighters to be younger and closer to their prime. He's had a couple wins since then, but man, he may as well have torpedoed his entire career in the process. And it's all because of that horrible moment of being cocky and careless. Number 6. My turn. This one is just so crazy. We're going back to Japan in the year 2010 for a card between Dream and K1, one being an MMA organization and the other one being a kickboxing one respectively. They decided to put together two of their biggest stars with Shinya Aoki in Dream versus Yurichiro Nagashima in K1. Nagashima was a K1 World Max Champion early on in that same year, and he definitely had a good bit of popularity as well, and of course Aoki was the biggest MMA star in Japan at the time. So what two better people to put into a mixed rules fight? Think Mighty Mouse versus Rodtang in one championship, but this was about 10 years earlier. First round, just kickboxing. Second round, MMA rules. So Aoki being the ground technician, what does he do?
It'll be a matter of Aoki here simply grinding out as much time as he can. High left pound kick from Aoki to no avail. Referee needs to caution Aoki here that is illegal under these kickboxing rules, and he does indeed.
Yeah, a lot of this. Commentary was in full support at first, but yeah, Aoki just kept avoiding action over and over again, going for illegal takedowns and, yeah, pretty much pissing everybody off in the process.
Double jump kick again now from Aoki. Aoki needs to keep his hands up. Using the ropes.
So at least DJ really fought Rodtang on the feet, but Aoki was just flopping here. Totally understandable, you know, he doesn't want to get knocked out, but it was getting embarrassing. At least it was pretty funny though, and he made it. The kickboxing round was now over. Finally, Shinya could get into his game.
You know what? Maybe Nagashima's going to be a real man with a real set of nards and stand and fight with Aoki and go out on his own shield. Here we go, second round. Oh, it's out, he's out! Oh no!
Dude. What? The round he was supposed to be safe in. Listen to the commentary here, by the way. Yeah, man, this is what he was waiting to do, but he basically made it so unbelievably obvious to the guy he was literally running away from for an entire round that he would immediately shoot, and Nagashima didn't even have to think about it. It was the obvious choice to go for that knee. Hey, at least it was extremely entertaining. But yeah, he was out for a long time after this one. Oh, and the commentators lost a bet, which means we saw Frank Trigg wearing this afterwards.
It was actually a pretty good night, other than, of course, me losing the bet. I mean, and obviously that was the worst part of the night. But really, to see Aoki get knocked out like that, it's pretty surprising because Aoki's got a pretty good head, he's a pretty good body, and he actually knows how to fight pretty well. Stupid job the second round and gets hit in the head.
So bad it's good, right?
You gotta tear me apart!
Aoki.
Number 5. Look, ma, no hands. We see fighters get rocked in a ton of fights, and usually the first reaction is to cover up or retreat. At the very least, try to tie up your opponent and reduce the possibility of more strikes.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden he's shooting. He's shooting for a takedown, and I'm like, oh, you're a wrestler.
In this fight, well, neither of those things happened. It goes back to the year 2010 with Earl Brown and Ben Craigie at UC MMA in London. Essentially, Earl Brown was going for a bit more of the grappling. He almost got a standing guillotine in the first round.
Back into guard. However, now he's going standing guillotine. And it's on tight. You can see Craigie's head.
While Ben Craigie was definitely having more success on the feet, and already about halfway through that first round, Earl Brown's legs were getting eaten alive by Craigie's leg kicks.
Rob, he really has targeted that lead leg.
It's a smart move. I mean, let's be honest.
This got so bad that Earl Brown was basically just hobbling around on that left leg. No clinch or takedown attempt in sight. Instead, what happened was Earl went for a push kick and got tripped up. Clearly, Earl felt really banged up on the left leg and wasn't super interested in using that leg to help him back up, so what did he do instead?
To take away the depth.
Oh, that's over. That is over.
Oh my god, dude. What did he expect to happen here? Craigie was standing right in front of him, and so effectively he just gave Craigie a free shot by grabbing the cage with no ability to block. There's no thought of defense here, no thought of protecting himself. Like I said, it's illegal to grab the cage like that, and of course, just about the only possible thing happened. Dude got nuked, and this is about as clean a knockout as you can get. There's no other way to put it than dumb. That's exactly what it was. Number 4. Sleepwalking in a fight. This is for good reason one of the most viral KOs of 2024, and it's pretty obvious why. And guys, I don't have many explanations for this one. PFL was doing their first event for their European Series of the year. Mikhail Grigui was debuting with a decent amateur career of all finish wins behind him, with Islam Mazrov at 2-0, with all finishes going back to his amateur days. So decent prospects at heavyweight here, even though Mazrov was really more of a light heavyweight. But there's not much to say here, really. Mikhail just walked out there like he was asleep, not a care in the world, to which Mazrov said, "Okay, great."
Like Dan Hardy
It doesn't matter how many angles you see this happen in or how much you try to figure out what Grigui was trying to do here, none of it makes sense. If he was trying to bait a big shot and counter, well, he certainly wasn't moving fast enough to make that happen, and before he knew it, it was all over.
Mikhail Grigui walked out, as you mentioned, like he was on his way to purchase a newspaper.
Funny enough, Grigui is now on a 3-fight win streak, including a decision literally just a couple days ago. It's going to take this man a whole lot more wins than that to live this one down, though. Owens, Mazrov got knocked out on the Contender Series over the summer, so yeah, pretty wild. Number 3 just knocked me out, bro. Oh man. Okay, so if you've never seen this one, you're in for a real treat. This might just be the worst strategy I've ever seen in a fight. We go to M1 Global in Russia for this one. It was actually considered a super fight for the region because Mikhail Gazayev was 2-0 in MMA at just 24 years old, with a master of sport and freestyle wrestling. Pretty much a tailor-made prospect for heavyweight in MMA. Meanwhile, the Latvian Konstantin Glukov's record wasn't the greatest on paper, but he was really experienced and had all kinds of kickboxing championships to his name. So pretty much a perfect style clash between a striker and a grappler. But when I tell you Gazayev's strategy for dealing with a striker at this early stage of his career was, I can't emphasize this enough, utterly bizarre, it still feels like a massive understatement. He decided to go for a big brain strategy here, and this is what it was. Yeah, so he was doing this immediately. Bait illegal kicks to the head from Glukov. He's not even trying to create a power double out of this situation. He just keeps awkwardly taking that knee right in front of an incredibly puzzled Konstantin Glukov. He didn't bite on these baiting attempts at first, at least, actually piecing up Gazayev with just the hands in select moments. I mean, it's simultaneously the most hilarious thing I've ever seen, while also being kind of boring too.
What is he doing? If he's down on all three, like you can't kick him in the head. That is crazy.
But this is basically what happens the entire first round. So how about round 2? Well, right back to square one. We're talking no action for minutes upon minutes here. Real quick, let's cut to a crowd shot. Not sure why the camera thought they needed to highlight that. And just after that, the ref finally issued a yellow card, which isn't a thing in the UFC, but here it means money is taken away from both men's pay for excessive inaction.
Yeah, finally. Thank you, referee. Yeah, there's a yellow card. Thank you, referee.
Once it hit the third round, it was clear Glukov had it with Gazayev's antics and immediately goes for the soccer kicks twice. The ref actually gets this totally wrong here, but it's understandable because it happened so fast. This was actually a perfectly legal kick. His knees were off the ground.
No, it's legal! It's legal! It's legal! Referee! It was legal!
Anyhow, the action restarts. Gazayev gets a takedown, but does nothing with it, so it gets stood back up. You can literally see the strain on Gazayev for sitting on his knees for almost 15 minutes at this point. It's a weirdly exhausting fight. And after another takedown, it gets stood right back up. He wasn't doing anything with these ground exchanges. So, as Gazayev slumps down again...
Oh, he's out, he's gone. That was illegal, he's on.
Yep, forget soccer kicks, that's a full-on fucking field goal right there. In this entire fight, Gazayev only got 1 or 2 takedowns, and he got them the only couple times he tried. If that was part of his strategy, he was barely using it, and that's what makes this so, well, dumb. If he went for more takedowns often, I'd be more understanding, but he used it to bait instead illegal kicks to the head from Glukov, and that's exactly what happened. Sure, I guess he technically won. The strategy, I guess, in a way here worked out. But there was literally no good outcome here. This was the best case scenario. Gazayev was either going to lose an extremely boring decision, or B, he would win by getting knocked the fuck out. As I said at the beginning of this one, I guess there was a strategy here, but man, I cannot imagine a worst possible way to win. Number 2, exhausted before the fight. One of the absolute worst people in MMA history is without a doubt Joe Son. He's been to jail for doing some truly awful things and then following that up by doing some more awful things. I wish I could go into more detail, but you know how YouTube is with things like this on the platform. And this whole thing is based on what you probably already know Joe Son for, being the hype man alongside Kimo Leopoldo and, ironically, a preacher. No doubt a charlatan and fraud, if there ever was one, but Kimo was that crazy dude that walked into fights with a literal cross on his back. Joe Son always there with him. And somehow, he has a quick cameo inside of Austin Powers as well.
Oh, who throws a shoe? Honestly.
For that reason, he's sometimes referred to as Random Task because that's what he was credited for in the movie. And without ambiguity, this man is an idiot.
You can find me in Wikipedia, believe it or not.
He claimed to have his own martial art called Joe Son Do, and just as this was all being introduced to the home audience, here was Joe Son trying to carry a cross just like Kimo, but dude, he can't even lift the thing. The commentary immediately noticed this and called him out.
I think that cross is a little heavy for him.
So by the time the fight even started, he had already strained his back and completely gassed his arms and easily lost the fight. Not that Joe Son Do was going to help him anyway, he was definitely going to lose no matter what. So Keith Hackney ended up bashing those balls, and to this day, makes me smile. And number 1, so dumb. This was never not going to be number 1 on the list. It absolutely has to be. Shinya Aoki, as it turns out, gets a bit of redemption here closing out this video, and you guys know what this one is. It's the Gardner fight. He was already a crazy big underdog with a record of 16-10, so the loss here was imminent. And from pretty much the get-go, he was getting dominated on the ground. Constant submission attempts and fight-ending intentions from Aoki, which you would think would help Dave avoid what was going to happen next. To his credit, he was surviving and definitely defending. That's when he goes for a cheeky little wave.
Oh, that's the answer. Oh, no.
Commentary already losing their minds here, but oh wow, he made it back to his feet after working his way out of that triangle attempt.
Oh, Gardner slips out. A moral victory for David Gardner.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, this guy's doing all right. But it's not long before he gets taken down again. Undeterred though, Gardner continues to fight everything off. That's when one of the most infamous incidents in the thousands upon thousands of fights that have occurred in the last 40 plus years of MMA's formal existence, going back to Shudo in 1985.
Hello, Japan. Oh, no. Oh my God, this is so dumb. So dumb.
Gardner.
Why? No, this is over.
Aoki's got it, that's it.
Just listen to Boss here, man. He loves martial arts with every fiber of his being. He's dedicated his entire life to the craft, and just listen to the pain and agony in his voice.
So dumb.
Gardner.
Why? Oh my God, he cannot sleep for 3 days, if not longer. That is like the dumbest thing you can do.
This is hands down my favorite commentary moment in all of MMA history, and without a doubt, the dumbest moment.
Hello, Japan. Oh.
All right, guys, I'll keep it brief in my sign off here. A big shout out to our Hall of Famers for making videos like this possible. Consider joining if you're interested, and we'll catch you on the next one.